two of the best strategies for getting started with real estate. Number one, obviously the FHA. Move into a house, buy a house, 3.5% down, especially, and that alone doesn't mean it's going to be a good deal, right? But what you did, you bought a fixer-upper of something that needed to be a total remodel, and you did the work yourself?
I did.
Okay, so you used sweat equity, you got in there, but then the second thing you did, which was cool, is that you turned that first property into a rental. And that's probably the number one way that I hear people get into real estate is, I just turn my house into a rental property. So do you advise that for other people today when you're talking to people, your clients or whoever, that, turn your old property into rental? I mean, because you as an agent have kind of like, you'd rather have them sell.
Right.
Because you are an agent, you get money.
No, absolutely. It is so investment real estate is a big part of my business.
Yeah.
For building millionaires, building investors. So it is, if the property makes sense, which most of them do, especially younger clients of mine, they're living in houses that would make good sense as a rental. So that is my absolute first and foremost advice.
Yeah.
And even looking at tax strategies, you still have 3 years to make a decision moving out of your primary with capital gains rules. So I advise people to keep their existing home if they have the ability to.
Yeah.
And the laws related to qualification and income, even for new landlords, that's eased up over the last couple of years. So it makes that transition easier as far as qualifying for both mortgages.
Yeah, makes sense.
So there's more leniency there now too, compared to a few years ago.
And if people are wondering what that means about the capital gains thing, I'll explain that real quick. And you correct me if I'm wrong here. Basically, the government says, hey, if you live in a property 2 of the last 5 years, you don't have to pay capital gains when you sell. And again, we're not CPAs, but the gist is you're not paying cap gains if you live in the house 2 of the last 5 years. It doesn't mean the immediate 2 previous years. It just means 2 of the last 5.
Correct.
So I actually did the same thing recently. I lived in a house for several years, sold it. I made I think it was $85,000 in profit. Well, I shouldn't say I sold it, but there was 2 years in between when I stopped living there and when I sold it and made the $85,000. I still got to claim that 2-year thing because I lived in there 2 of the last 5. It just wasn't the immediate recent 2.
Correct.
So so that's why you have a couple years to decide. So and a lot of people ask me that question: should I rent my house or should I sell it? And it's a hard. I mean, I like to say you should just rent it out because it gets you into real estate. But if you're gonna rent it out and lose $100,000 at taxes because maybe then you should have sold it and dumped it into something else. Right. So what do you usually tell people when they say should I rent it or sell?
95% of the answer is keep it as a rental.
Yep.
If they have the fortitude and the personality type that it's going to work well. And again, it's a house that makes sense, which in our market, most houses will rent for what your mortgage is, especially if you got the mortgage a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And even if it's running skinny, if you only own 1, 2, 3 properties, you can take on a little bit tighter deals as opposed to, say, owning 10, 20, 30. So I think you could be a little more risk tolerant in the beginning on deals that might be a little tighter.